All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back into another live stream. All right, today we are kicking off our Summer of RAG. Well, I'm going to call this Phase 0 of our Summer of RAG, so we're not actually going to do anything with retrieval augmented generation today in particular. However, we are going to tee ourselves up for success by generating a synthetic data set that we can play around with throughout this entire series. Now, to be honest, the core of today's stream about actually generating this data set is actually relatively simplistic. Relatively simplistic in the context of if you've been paying attention to the series, or not just the series, but like the last couple streams or like the last series that we did. Because it's going to use a little bit of LangChain stuff. So you're going to see, I'm not going to zip through it necessarily, but it's going to go by relatively quickly. So I decided to make this a little bit of a 2-for-1. So when I mean a 2-for-1, I mean that I'm also going to teach or introduce some of the basics of using the Kaggle platform for those of you who have not used it before. And I'll explain a little bit why I chose to do this. Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and explain it why now. So I am I'm a huge proponent of learning, and I personally think that the most ideal device to learn on is with an iPad. Unfortunately, it's not perfect though. So the reason I like using an iPad, and I got my iPad back here right now, I love using the iPad particularly because I don't have an Apple Pencil with me right now, but like I can, like this morning I was teaching myself some calculus stuff, and so I was able to, so this is a 13-inch iPad. I was able to have like the math and like the Khan Academy stuff on the left side of the screen while I was doing like some drawing on the right side of the screen. And then if you have a physical keyboard, it's just very nice to like be able to like do some quick typing with. And one of my favorite apps on here is called Juno. It is like a Jupyter Notebook app. The only unfortunate downside to using an iPad for learning in particular is that it's not ideal for coding, like not at all. And so I mentioned there's the Juno for the iPad app, but even that is a very what's the word? Like it's in a very truncated state. What is the word I'm looking for? It's basically like a half-baked state. And that's not the fault of the iOS developer or the Juno app developer. It's a limitation of the iPad itself. So one thing that I found kind of a way to get around that is, well, why have I not been using just cloud services? So I could use AWS, and we have used AWS. We've used the SageMaker notebooks. The only problem with those is that they are not cheap. I don't remember what the cost per hour is, and if you forget to shut it down, then you have that problem too. So that's where I went to Kaggle and to kind of leverage the Kaggle platform. So everything that I did today and everything that we're going to be doing today was done on this device. 100% of today's content was done on this device. And even the graphic design to actually create the title card and everything was done on an iPad with a keyboard, of course. Now, trying to use an iPad without a keyboard is kind of challenging. I don't have the keyboard with me. It's upstairs, I think. Oops. But anyway, so that's why I went to Kaggle. So let's go ahead and share my screen, and let's talk about what Kaggle is and how we're going to be using it. So the actual what Kaggle is actually and how we're going to be using it. How we're going to be using it is not what I would say is the core selling point or the core product point of Kaggle. And so you'll notice that right up here to the left. Right on to the left of this navigation, on the left side of this navigation up here, you'll notice competitions is listed number 1. And so let's step back. So what is Kaggle? So Kaggle is a competition, or it's a data science platform. It is owned by Google. Didn't used to be owned by Google. I think it was originally just started as its own thing. And it was known as the word implies here, the primary function of it has been to be like a data science competition platform. So this is, I believe the platform where Netflix originally did its contest to pay people out money if they could basically come up with a better recommendation algorithm than their own, like a decade ago. And there's a bunch of competitions and stuff out there. I would say to be completely clear, I do not I have not been gotten myself involved in the competitions, and it's not because I've not wanted to per se. It's just a matter of lack of time. Hold on, I'm gonna answer this person's question here. So somebody just asked a question in the YouTube chat asking if I stream on Twitch, and I do not. Just on YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. I suppose there's nothing stopping me from doing Twitch. I just don't know how. But maybe I'll look into it because I have a service that will simulcast to all 4 platforms if I wanted to. Anyway, sorry, got sidetracked with that. But you know, like I said, so this is data science competition platform. However, the other things on here, like the platform's really grown into, like, I would just call it a general data science platform at this point. And so, like, you'll see that there are data sets that you can use. So these are very much like Hugging Faces. You can go out and look at whatever data set that you want to use. There are like the specific models that you can use. What I really like to recommend to people are these courses. Like, so these courses, they're like free short courses that they offer. And like, you can even do like all the coding and stuff within the platform here. But what I'm specifically going to cover here today is what they call, here, let me go back to the home, what they call the code section here. And code is actually really just their nomenclature for a Jupyter notebook. And the really nice thing about these Jupyter notebooks is that they are basically offered for free. And when I mean for free, I mean that, like, yeah, there are restrictions on what you can and can't do, but generally speaking, I don't think that the restrictions have been like severe. So for example, like, I think that there is a session quota, meaning that like you can't run a Jupyter notebook for longer than 12 hours at a time. But like, so I don't know the specifics on some of that stuff, but from what I've run into, like, from what I've seen, like, I've had no problems with the quotas or anything like that. So, let's actually just go ahead and log in here. So I'm just going to sign in with my Google account. So you could see that, you know, I've got, like I said, like, I am not a huge user of the Kaggle platform. It's really just in the last week or so that I've started to make more use of it. And it's really just because I wanted to do more coding work on my iPad and just couldn't do it natively. But I've really enjoyed it, and I would really like to get into the competition platform stuff. Excuse me. So one thing I do want to recommend, I'm going through this book right now, some of the early chapters of this book were really, really helpful. Gabriel Preda, Kaggle. All right. So this book right here by Gabriel Prada, apologize if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. I've been working my way through this book, and it's been really good. So actually, the first couple chapters are just like tips for how to use Kaggle in the most ideal way, and then he walks through like actual specific examples and stuff, like with different various competitions. For like how to interact on that stuff. But anyway, like, the first couple chapters are really good. So I would definitely recommend this book in general. But anyway, so coming back to here, so let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and create our first notebook. So what we just got to do here is go and create a notebook. Oh, I guess I didn't even talk about like what we are going to be doing today as part of like the core of what we're doing. The data set that we're going to be generating is it is a synthetic knowledge item data set. And when I mean knowledge item, I mean that, like, so every major company out there has some sort of knowledge management system out there. And so you can imagine, you know, what this is intended for is, you know, like I said, all these major companies, they are going to have major IT systems. And when I mean major IT systems, I mean, they're going to have systems on how to, distribute laptops, and then have the whole file or the whole authentication system of the laptops, or like how people log in and stuff, or downloading individual programs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can imagine if the company gets big enough, you can have a whole library of these different knowledge items. And so it's extremely common in these different companies. In fact, my father-in-law, who works for Blue Cross Blue Shield, is a knowledge management manager himself. I think that he helps to manage some of that knowledge work for Blue Cross Blue Shield there. And so, like, yeah, this was even what I was looking at here before. Like, I don't know if this framework is as popular these days, but like a decade ago it was pretty popular, the ITIL framework. And so I think it looks like they're on ITIL 4 now. I'm ITIL V3 Foundation certified. But yeah, like basically like, yeah, there's even certifications and stuff around this whole thing. And so because this is such a popular topic, and because I know that, you know, there are people out there that if they're going to be applying retrieval augmented generation in any capacity, it's probably going to be in this vein. So what I thought it would be fun to do is to generate a synthetic data set. Now I'm going to be showing you how to demonstrate or like generate this synthetic data set yourself. Oh my gosh, I'm stumbling all over my words right now. But I've already generated it for you, and you can make use of the one that I've already generated. And in fact, even in today's stream, just to save on time, I'm going to just do a truncated version of like the data set that I actually produced. So the data set that I produced has 100 simulated articles inside of it. And that took, I don't know, I think it took like 30 minutes to produce. And I just don't want to sit here and wait for that. So we'll do probably like 10 articles or so. It doesn't really matter. Like I'll show you like how it gets different. But anyway, so let's come back and talk a little bit about Kaggle for a second here. So when you create a new notebook, you'll see this interface here. I don't know if there's a way to like by default, like when you start a new notebook, to have a different cell here, but it always starts with this cell. It's always doing the import of NumPys and pandas, and it is always showing what is inside of the input directory. Now, I guess this cell is kind of helpful to notice because, like it's noting, by default the way that it reads in the input and out the output is in specific directory paths. So if we just go ahead and run this cell, and running this cell for the first time, you'll notice it's going to take a minute or two. Not even a minute, but the reason it is because so it's starting a virtual machine out there, but it's pretty quick. Compared to starting like a SageMaker notebook, you'll know that starting a SageMaker notebook can take like, I don't know, like a solid 2 to 3 minutes. And okay, and then you can see that here we're already good to go. And I already ran the cell. I think I ran it. Yeah, so there must be nothing in there. And so let's, oh my gosh, my face is going to be in the way, isn't it? I got to think of what to do here because I want to talk through something. Well, I guess I'll like you could still see enough of it over here, but I'll just have to be careful as we go throughout here. So you'll notice on this on the right side here, we have this like this whole menu thing under the notebook kind of thing. And let's walk through some of these pieces here. So you can add inputs here. So like, let's say that I already had a data set that I wanted to, like, on my local computer, I could just upload it here. But the cool thing about this is it's that you can just get stuff directly from like what you've already created, like, or from Kaggle itself. So you can see, and I was hoping to show this later, but I guess it's already showing it now. Like, so the data set that I talked about that we're going to be creating, I already uploaded to Kaggle as its own data set. And so let me go ahead and show it if I can. Yeah, so here we go. So this is the data set that I created that anybody could go ahead and make use of themselves. So you can see, like I said, it's got 100 values. So if I wanted to make use of that directly in here, then what I would simply do is just click the plus icon here. And then like when I get out of here, now you can see it was removed. Oops, I think I accidentally removed it, didn't I? Okay, so all right, so I've added it. Now, if I get out of here, now you can see that in my input, now I have the data sets. And you can see that I can make use of that here. And then if I want to copy the file path, then I would just click the little icon over here that says copy file path. And then if I wanted to do like a read in, then it would do a read in as such. Now, if I were to run the cell again, it would need to restart the kernel because now I've added some new stuff, but that's okay. But I'm going to go ahead and remove this because I don't need this from here. But the other interesting thing here is that in addition to loading in like data, you can also load in code. And why is that helpful? So like one of the things that we're gonna have to do, well, it's helpful like in the sense that like you can now create reusable modules, if you will, that you can continuously reuse across all your different notebooks. So I actually created 2 for myself, and I made them public so anybody could use them or not. And so like, or if you wanted to use them, it's totally cool. Like, so I'll go ahead and well, what do I want to do? All right, I want to demonstrate like what the two of them do. So the first one is let's say that I needed, well, we're going to be making use of LangChain in this notebook. In order for me to do an install of LangChain, what I need to do is a pip install. So in order to, this is nothing new or like exclusive to Kaggle. So if you wanted to do a shell command from inside of a notebook, you might be familiar that you just have to start with an exclamation point. So then if I did a pip install as such, pip install LangChain, then it will do a pip install. All right. That's weird. I don't know why I did that. Pip install LangChain. All right, well, let's try LangChain core. Okay. What is going on here? I think it's fine. But anyway, so like, let's say, I think, oh, it's still running. Yeah, it's still kind of running. LangChain's done some different things lately, so anyway. But like, so this can get really annoying if you wanted to do this for every single notebook, especially like, let's say that you had a bunch of different libraries that you had to do. So you have, in our case, we're gonna have to do LangChain, community, LangChain, OpenAI, several others. So what I did was I created my own other file over here. Where is it at? Pip install. Okay, so I called this notebook just pip install. And so you can see what it does here is I have a default set list of things that I want installed. And so this is going to look a little bit odd, but you can see here that what it's actually doing is it is using some Python commands to actually do a pip install and then installs them to the working directory here. And then, yeah, so that's all that does. So you can, by default, it'll just install these things here. So I can continue to add to my defaults, or you could, I also made it to where like I could just load in this module and then pass in my own list of Python whatevers and then do the installs that way. So two things. So number one is like, why am I saving these things to the target of Kaggle? Well, the reason for this is that you could see here that in the output directory, that might be a little bit hard to see, so let me make that bigger for y'all. In the output over here, you can see that we have our working directory. And so right now it says there's nothing in there, but that's assuming that we just started this notebook. So if I do a quick refresh in here, you should see the modules of, well, never mind, it's not installing it to here. But anyway, like let's say I wanted to do, like if I got out of this notebook and I stopped this session right now, these LangChain things that I just installed would go away because they're not persisted on each session. Meaning that if I were to come back and start a new session and I wanted to make use of these again, well, unfortunately, now I have to reinstall them all again, which can get really annoying. So what this module over here is doing is it saves them into the Kaggle working directory. And so if I go into my session options here, you'll notice that there's like a persistence thing. So by default, it's set to no persistence. You can set it to like be one of these different things. So in here, I just want the files to be persisted. So now the files are persisted. And so now when if I were to do my pip install, it were to install them to here. And then when I were to load up my, if I were to load my, my session again, I would not have to do all the pip installs again because it would just reference them from this output directory. Okay, so how do we do that then? Like, how do I make use of this over here over inside of here? Well, simply enough, all we have to do is go into here, and then you can look at my work, or you can look at anybody else's work. So you can see that I have a couple of different, and so these things are actually called, I don't know if they are called or they were called utility scripts. And in fact, if I were to go into here and do an edit, you can see that there's like a thing in here that it's like you could set as utility script. To be completely honest, though, like I don't understand what that means. It seems like it maybe had more of an importance at one point in time, but these days it seems like it's just adding a tag that notes that this is a utility script. So anyway, like let me just go ahead and add in the pip installs. All right, as such. All right, so now I've done that. And so what I'm going to do here then is I am going to hold on just a second. I got to check my notes. All right. All right, I am going to do the pip install then appropriately. All right, and so the way that we need to do that then is I'm just going to go ahead and delete all this out because I don't need any of that, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this out because I don't need any of that. In fact, let's go ahead and start with a fresh notebook. Or why is that? Okay. All right, so nothing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do from pip install. So this did I add it? I thought I added it. Yeah, so you can see here. Yeah, it's noting that we got this utility script that's now added. And so we got pip install in here. So if I from pip install, and then I have my function perform pip install, import perform pip install. And if you remember, by default, perform pip install is just a function that takes in a list of pip installs, but it also just has like a default list that it can reference. So I'm just going to let it reference that default list because that'll work for what I'm doing here. And so now you can see that I'm doing all my pip installs this way, and I didn't have to go and typing all of these different things. So like, because this is mine, and you could fork yours off and do whatever you wanted with it. Now I can just go, like, because I use these 4 packages here all the time, or like I could go and add more. Now I can just keep going and adding more defaults in here without having to go back and, you know, try to figure out all this other baloney that I don't want to have to try to figure out. All right, so this is going to take a minute or two. And you'll be able to see that when this is completed, that our output directory is going to have changed, because right now you can see it's still technically empty, but I've not refreshed it yet. So let's go ahead and wait a minute here. I'm a little bit winded today. That's why I'm kind of taking breaks. I don't know why. It's been a long year. Oh, I guess one thing while I'm waiting before I forgot to change this here. Like, so if you wanted to change the name of your notebook, so you can see here, it's obviously just using some like unique identifier here. So we can just go up here. I'm going to call this live stream synth dataset. Okay. Live stream synthetic dataset. All right. Lots of stuff. All right. Still working. I think it's getting close to being done though. I guess the other, so while this is still working, the other thing that I want to do is, so in order to generate this synthetic data set, we are going to be making use of a large language model. So specifically, I'm going to be making use of a commercial API. So you can use either OpenAI, or I'm going to be using my Perplexity subscription for this. But in both cases, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have to save the API key somewhere in order to reference it appropriately. I think it's done installing now. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. So this is all done. All right, and let's go ahead and refresh this over here, and you should be able to see all of our Python stuff in here. Yeah, there you go. So now all of our Python packages are in here. Okay. All right, so, oh yeah, so anyway, so if I wanted to make use of my, my API keys, and you wanted to be like safe about it, I think this is a relatively new feature. You can just go into add-ons and then secrets, and then you can put in your different API keys appropriately here. So you can see I've already got my OpenAI API key and my Perplexity API key. Now, the one thing you'll notice is like, by default, like you can reference your secrets from any Kaggle notebook that you create on your own, but they are not necessarily explicitly, you can't reference them directly in a raw state. And what do I mean by that is simply like, so you can see here, attached notebook. So basically, like, you can see this code snippet down here on how to make use of like this down here, for example. But in order to do that, I actually have to attach these to the notebook. So now these things are attached to the notebook, and you can see that here's it regenerated my code here to actually get that out if I wanted to. Or I could do what I did over here. So what I did over here, so we're done with this one. We don't need to be looking at this one anymore. So what I did over here was I created a different utility script here that is one specifically just for loading up the different API keys. And I didn't need to do this, but I just liked like that. So again, how do we do this? So we just go over to our input, load API keys. So you can see that I got my load API keys over here. And now I can go from load API keys, import load API keys. And then I'm going to call this API keys equals load API keys. Oops. Syntax error. All right. That'll take just a second to, so you can see here it's getting the script over into here. And then I'm not going to print out this variable because printing out this variable would show the API keys, but now we can reference them appropriately to actually do what we need to do. All right, so let's pause here for a second while that's still doing its thing. Now you can see that sometimes it's a little bit slow in getting going. Yeah, I know, I corrected that. Okay, so now we're good. But basically, we've come to the point where I've shown you everything that I wanted to do with Kaggle. Like, I think, like, there might be something else that I can show in here. But basically, like, the things that I want to show are the utility scripts, how to make use of the utility scripts, how to import a data set. And then when you export the data set, you'll export it to this working directory here, and then you can just go and find it and make use of it from this directory. And then I also show you that, like, if you wanted to persist your files, you would have to come in here and do that. Now, I guess one question that I kind of have, like, and I don't know the answer to this, is like what is the usage quota or whatever for this? Like, I see that there's an output here like of 19.5 gigabytes, but like, is that just collective across my entire account, or like my entire Kaggle account, or is that just for this one notebook? Some of that stuff, like, I've kind of unclear about. And then you'll notice even in here, so here's what I was talking about, like with the session usage. So with the session usage, you could see that it says session of 12 hours. Now, when I was reading Gabriel Preta's book, like, so this book over here, his book noted that like it was 12 hours in general, like it was 12 hours like every day. But the way that this indicates to me, and like kind of what I've seen, is it's almost like 12 hours per notebook. And that could have just been a change in, like, because there, like, since Gabriel has published his book, and he just published his book, like, yeah, you could see he just published his book at the end of 2023. Like, there have been things that have changed even since his publication. So maybe that's what that is. But the only reason I note that is just to note that I don't know the answer to that, and you're just going to kind of have to figure that out for yourself, unfortunately. But that's really all I wanted to show with Kaggle. So let's actually just get back into the core of what we're going to do today, pretending like we're not even on Kaggle, like just like we do with anything else. Is there a way to collapse that? Yeah, I can't collapse that. And yeah, so the rest of this is just really going to be back operating in LangChain with Python code. All right. So let's get into what we're going to be doing today to generate this synthetic data set. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to import some stuff. We're going to do just standard imports. I am going to introduce one new LangChain thing here in a minute. In fact, I'm loading it in now. Output parsers, import, comma, separated list output parse. There we go. All right, couple more from LangChain core.prompts, import prompt template. And from LangChain AI, import OpenAI, or chat OpenAI. Okay, so only one thing in here it should be unfamiliar, and that is the output parser. We'll get to that here in a minute. Okay, so like I said, I'm personally going to be using my Perplexity subscription, and the reason for this is like, so if you're not aware, here, I want to try something here. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second because I'm afraid that I'm going to accidentally reveal my API key. Would I have? Yeah, this is the one biff that I have a little bit with Kaggle, is that it reveals, it doesn't mask the API key. But anyway, okay, I'm going to show this part. All right, I'm glad I stopped sharing. Okay, so below, if I were to scroll down, you'd be able to see my API key here. But anyway, so Perplexity, one of the really nice things that I like about it is and I guess yesterday was the first of the month, which is why this is back to $5, is that if you have a pro subscription, they give you $5 a month to use their API, just as you would like the OpenAI API. In fact, you actually basically copy the syntax from them, and I've showed this before, but it's just a kind of a nice little bonus extra. Like I wouldn't be reliant on this API for anything in like a real world usage case. And the reason for that is because they're constantly changing out the models that they have in here. Like, so for example, you can see that they like so the model that I'm going to be using for today's stream is Llama 370B Instruct, but in here before there was Mistral 7B, there was Llama 2, and so like yeah, those models are gone, and they've changed some of these out. So, and again, like, so this is really good for like if you just want to mess around with things, or if you just want to do light usage, but I would not say rely on this for anything else beyond that. So anyway, so back to our notebook here then. So what I'm just gonna call this chat model. But if I want, so like, let's say, so like like I said though, it is using the exact same chat OpenAI interface. So if I were to just use OpenAI as is, so I would just go chat OpenAI, API key equals API keys, OpenAI API key. And that's all I would need to do for that. So in fact, let me go ahead and try this out. So chat model invoke, what is the capital of Illinois? Okay, just to make sure it works. Okay, so you can see that it worked just fine. So basically, but I just incurred cost on my OpenAI API, which, you know, that it was probably fractions of a penny. But why would I do that when I could simply use Perplexity and make use of my $5 a month that I get from that? So again, the way to do that, chat model equals chat OpenAI. And so we're going to need to have a couple more extra things in here. So we need the API key, of course. API key equals API keys, perplexity, API key. Then we need to set the base URL. Base URL equals https://api.perplexity.ai. And then we're going to set the model. Which model are we going to use? Model equals Llama 370B Instruct. Okay. And so let's go ahead and invoke this the same way. Okay. Wow, they produce the exact same content. I've never seen that before. Like I'm not really super surprised because this is a simple question, but usually like I get like one word of difference. So interesting. But I mean, it is definitely a different model though, because you can see that, you know, we got the model name here. You could see it's interesting that the prompt tokens are different. Total tokens are different too. I wonder why. No, never mind. I don't wonder why. I do know the answer to that. Like kind of. And the answer to that is like the tokenization between these two models is clearly different. Now the specifics on how they're different, I do not know that. But we do know that there's a difference, obviously, because you could see that the number of tokens is a little bit different. Anyway, so now from this point forward, I'm just going to continue to make use of this. It doesn't matter though, if you if you don't have Perplexity and you do have an OpenAI API key, or really any other API, again, this is repeat from stuff that we've done in previous streams, where the whole reason that we use LangChain is because we can swap out the models and it does not matter downstream what we end up doing. All right, so we've instantiated the model, so let's go ahead and jump into prompt engineering. Okay, so this is going to be a twofold approach. So what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to be generating 10 articles. But it's going to be two different passes. So in the first pass, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the AI model produced 10 different headings or 10 different topics for what you might find in a knowledge management system. And so I'll create some prompt engineering for that. And then after that, we'll take those 10 titles and then we will do this for loop to iterate over all of those 10 titles and then to produce a more fully fleshed out like body of text for each of those knowledge items. So we're gonna have to do two different forms of or two different things of prompt engineering here. So I'm gonna call this first one topic generation prompt. Okay, and I'm gonna try to do this without looking at my notes, just because I want to like really hammer home like how I think about prompt engineering. So like I said, with this whole data set that we're going to be generating, we wanted to emulate basically a large company, a Fortune 500 company, if you will, and like the different knowledge items that it has in front of it. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and ground the model with what we want it to do. So we're going to say, you know, you are the head of an IT department at a large Fortune 500 company. And all right, so that's just giving a little bit of context for the model to be able to work with. Let me move my face out of the way because my face is going to get in the way here really quick. All right. So you are the head of the department of an IT at a large Fortune 500 company. You maintain. All right, one thing I do need to do really quick here. I forgot. By default, it doesn't wrap text, so I'm going to do a word wrap here. So that way, when I get typing, it'll wrap around. All right, you maintain a knowledge database containing knowledge items about different things to support the IT operations of the business. For example, one knowledge item in the knowledge database might be entitled "How to Reset Your Password." So since resetting your password is an extremely common one. So let's pause here for a second. So a couple things that I noted here. So I'm grounding it by saying, okay, we want it to be in the context of thinking about a large company. And so I specifically say a Fortune 500 company. So we're not getting super specific. We're not saying we're Apple. We're not saying we're Coca-Cola. We're just keeping it generic because we don't care about the specifics. For this synthetic data set, we just care about generic stuff. And so as far as generic stuff goes, like how to reset your password, I'm sure there's a knowledge item in every single Fortune 500 company's knowledge database about that. Okay. So for example, one knowledge item in the knowledge database might be entitled "How to Reset Your Password." Please generate a list of 10 example topics of articles that might be found in your knowledge management database. I'm going to call this knowledge management database just to get really specific. The more specific you can get, the better. Management database. Please only return the list of knowledge item articles. Do not return any additional context or text. Now, the reason for this is, unfortunately, like these large language models have a tendency to be like yappy, as a lot of people call it, meaning that it'll say, like, if I didn't put that, there's an inclination for the model to then like just say, oh, like if I asked for the list of the topics, it would say, okay, here's your list of 10 topics. The reason I don't want it to do that is, well, we'll get to that here in a second, but like I don't want it to do that. I just want the list of the text. I don't want it, or I just want the list of the articles. I don't want anything else. So all right, so that is the prompt. Now the one thing I do want to note though is you'll notice here that I'm asking for a list, and so like I said, what we're going to do, so in this first part, we're going to generate the list of the articles. And then, like I said, we want to go through in this for loop to iterate over all the different individual article topics to get the full body text of the thing, of the the knowledge item are like information. And so in order to do that, what I really need is this information transformed into a Python list. And so that is where this comma separated list output parser comes in. So LangChain offers a bunch of different parsers, and so one of them is this comma separated list output parser. And so you'll see how we're going to make use of it here in a second. So what I need to do here is I need to instantiate the parser. So output parser equals comma separated output parser. And then let's go ahead and show you how let's just show how we can make use of this within this context here. Okay. So let's go ahead and call this KI topic generation prompt template. So we're going to call this prompt template. All right. And then we're going to say the template equals KI topic generation prompt. I know this is probably not going to make sense, but it will here in a second. So let me just type this out and then we'll get to it. And then format instructions. Okay, so that probably makes 0 sense right now. But the next variable we're going to pass in is the input variable. Input variables equals KI topic generation prompt. And then we are going to pass in another variable. And this is where things get interesting. And to be completely honest, I don't understand what the difference between an input variable and a partial input variable is. Maybe, maybe it's because, well, I guess it's because we're not actually inputting anything. Like, so, well, never mind. I don't know. But anyway, so we're going to call this format instructions. Format instructions is output parser dot get format instructions. Okay, so so what is this doing here? So let's walk through what we just did here. What we did here is we created this prompt template that is going to take in an input variable. So the input variable is actually going to be this prompt text that we wrote up here, this variable that is called topic generation prompt. So when we pass it into this prompt template, that's what we're passing in here. But then the other thing that we're passing in is the actual, so like what LangChain, the way that LangChain actually works is like with this output parser is it's actually doing some prompt engineering, additional prompt engineering that they've kind of refined and figured out what works best over time. And then after like it uses that prompt engineering, then it uses this output parser once again to actually be able to produce the output that you need based off of what this output is doing. So let's go ahead and look at that. Like, so the way that we do that, just as we've noted here, so output parser dot get format instructions. So what this should be, I've not actually looked at this. Like this should actually just produce a string talking about how to like basically produce a Python list. Wow, that is really lame. Oh my gosh, that I was expecting something more than that, to be honest. Like, I guess well, yeah, we're gonna stick with it. But yeah, so that's what this is doing. It's basically saying, okay, this template's going to be the KI topic generation prompt, which is going to be this, and then the format instructions, which is this. I am very surprised that this is all that is, but it has been reliable, so I'm not really complaining. All right, so now we are actually ready to go ahead and start generating our stuff. So let's go ahead and start chaining these things together first of all. What we need to do is we need to create our KI topic generation chain equals KI topic generation prompt template, and we're going to pipe that into the chat model. And then finally, we're going to pipe that into the output parser, like I said. So after the output has been produced, it's going to go through the output parser, and then the output parser will produce the list of the stuff for us. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and generate our stuff. So we're going to call this KI topics list equals KI topic generation chain dot invoke. All right, and then so then we need to pass in our input here. So our input, as you can recall, is going to be this string here, and then we are going to pass in our actual variable from up here. All right, so this is going to produce our list of the 10. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. Should be relatively quick. Like this part is actually relatively quick. It's the next part that gets a little bit longer, which is why we had to do the for loop. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and look at it. So KI, well, let's look, let's not spoil ourselves. Let's just look like, what is the type of this thing? So KI topics list. Okay, so you can see it is a list data type. So let's see what's actually inside this thing. Okay, so this is, it did what I did not want it to do. And this is exactly what I was talking about before. Like, it was like, it did this goofy business of, like adding like this little bit of text here, which I did not want it to do. So I actually created this on the fly. Let me just go ahead and use my other prompt to see if this helps out. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this out, and I'm going to use my other prompt. All right, but I'm going to change this to 10. 10. Yeah, 10. All right, so let's see if this prompt is very similar to the other one. Let's see if it does any better. It might do the same business. Okay, so that one was actually better, so I don't know if I did better prompt engineering or if we just got lucky. In fact, let's go ahead and run it again, just out of curiosity. Okay, so you can see that we have our list of topics here. All right, so let's go ahead and, what is the length of the KI topics list? What's the length? All right, so we do have 10 here. All right, so that's part one. So part one, we are now complete. We have created all of our topics here. So part two is actually pretty simple from here. So all we need to do is basically like do what we did again, except we have to create a new prompt to actually create the text here. So I'm going to call this knowledge item generation prompt. All right, so I'm going to say, so I actually am just going to copy this one, but I'll type it by hand. You are the head of an IT help desk as part of a Fortune 500 company, and your company maintains a knowledge management system with, why is that not wrapping? I thought I had this wrapping. View word wrap. Okay, now it's wrapping with all right, I'm getting lazy. I'm just going to copy and paste this, and we'll talk about it. Okay, so basically what is this prompt doing here? Again, we're doing a little bit of grounding. So we already talked about, this is very similar grounding that we did in our original prompt engineering. The one thing that I've highlighted in the streams below, before is you'll notice that we're going to actually be passing in the knowledge item to our article title here. So let's go ahead and show these again. Topics list. So for example, when this prompt is invoked, it's going to take each of these different knowledge item articles and slide it in here where it says the KI article. Now you'll notice in here that I am specifically noting within the triple backticks below is an example of one of these is an example of a title of one of these knowledge article items. And so like the reason I noted to like this whole triple backticks thing is back to this idea of prompt poisoning, or I don't know if there's a better word for it. There might be a better word for it, but anyway, so you could, the problem with that people can get into is that you can say something like ignore all previous instructions and then just kind of have it do its own thing. Jailbreaking, I guess, is what you might call that. One of the curbs around that to ensure that the rest of this text is not disrupted is by saying, okay, anytime we input something within triple backticks, just know that that's an input to this and not something that should necessarily influence the rest of this text. Meaning that, so if I put something like ignore previous instructions, blah, 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 within as an input to here, it is less inclined to hallucinate and adopt that because of the triple backticks kind of thing here. And it doesn't have to be triple backticks. It could be some sort of other delineator. It just needs to be a clear delineator of how you want, how you're going to input the text into the prompt. Okay, so the rest of this is going to be pretty simple. The rest of this is going to be very much what we've covered in the past. So let's go ahead and create a prompt here. So I'm going to call this ki text generation prompt equals chat prompt template from messages. All right, messages equals human message prompt template dot from template equals knowledge item generation prompt. All right, and then all we need to simply do is create a chain for this. So text chain equals ki text generation prompt. Okay, so one thing that I do want to do is I want to save this all into a pandas data frame, just to help keep track of things. So I'm going to call this df knowledge items. I guess we call it dfkis for short, equals pd.data frame data equals ki topic ki topics list data frame. I gotta correct that typo. All right, and then I'm gonna create an empty thing in here. I'm gonna call it dfki's ki text equals empty text. So why am I doing this? So let's go ahead and look at this for a second really quick. So you can see we have a simple data frame and that we are going to generate text associated to each of these things. So why did I create an empty string in here? Well, so what we can do is we're going to use this like this special function within the pandas data frame here called the apply function. And what the apply function does is it basically says, okay, I am going to iterate over every single one of these rows, and then I'm going to take action on this appropriately. And so imagine that like I was saying, so when I was generating my 100 of these, it took like 30 minutes. So let's say 15 minutes in, it crapped out for whatever reason. Well, that would not be ideal. I wouldn't want to have to start over from scratch. So what I would ideally hope for is that half of these completed and were saved inside of the data frame, and then I could restart the code basically. And then if there was something already generated, then I wouldn't have to do any of those things, if that makes any sense. So that probably is a little bit confusing. So let's go ahead and mention what I'm talking about. So in order to make use of that apply function, we have to create our own custom function. So I'm going to call this generate ki text. And we're going to pass in a row. So like I said, we're going to be iterating over each of the rows of this pandas data frame here. And so we're basically going to check if row ki text. So right now everything in this this data frame here is an empty string, because that's how we set it. Everything's an empty string. So if it's empty, then what we're going to do is we're going to generate ki text. So generate ki text equals ki text chain.invoke, and then we're going to pass in the ki title. So again, the reason we're passing the ki title is for this piece of the prompt engineer. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Choked on my saliva there. Whoops. Anyway, so we're going to pass in the knowledge item title, and that is going to be the row, and then the ki topic, and then this is going to give us an object back. So if we just wanted the text, we would just get the content as such, and then we're just going to return the ki text. So that's just to. And that's basically it. That's all the code there. Now, let's say we already do have something in here. We basically just want to kind of operate this as a pass-through. So we're just going to say else here, just return the row ki text. So this is just going to basically return back whatever's in there as a pass-through. And that's it. So now we can just iterate through this thing, and we are within minutes of being done here. So I'm going to call this df knowledge items. Ki text equals df. Oh wait, I forgot I called it something shorter. Df kis equals df kis dot apply. We're gonna apply our generate ki text, and then we have to do axis equals 1 to make sure that it's doing the rows, not the columns. And so this will take a minute. Probably shouldn't take too long though. Has chat prompt value has no attribute content. Content. All right, what did I do wrong here? All right, ki text chain. Did I not set the ki text chain? Oh, that would be because, yeah, I did. That's my fault. All right, there we go. All right, now let's try this again. All right. So this is going to take a little bit. Like I said, it took a really long time for 100. So it'll probably take a minute or so here. And then we would just simply save this out and then call it a day. In fact, I'm going to just paste in the code to show you how I'd save this out. So DFKIs. So if I want to save that out like such, then I would go ahead and do that. In fact, I'll go ahead and have it set to run. Yeah, I knew this last part was going to just take a little bit, but I hope you can see now why I kind of jammed these two sessions together, because we are right at 1 hour, which I like. I think 1 hour is like the perfect length of a time for a stream. So if I would have just done Kaggle only, or if I would have just synthesized the dataset only, that would have been like 30 minutes each, and then like a little too short for one stream. So I think this is a good mix of both, and I hope you learned some things. Like, I really like the whole idea of utility scripts on Kaggle. I think that's really cool. And like I said, like trying to do everything on an iPad is now possible. It's still just not ideal. Like I don't know why I keep holding out for this, but I really hope at WWDC this year that Apple is going to announce something for the iPad. But like, I've been saying that since 2019, and so yeah, I just need to give up, I guess. Yeah. So I knew this was going to take a bit. I guess I'll take a sip of my drink, or maybe I'll have some peanut butter M&Ms. These things are good. These peanut butter mini M&Ms. They're on sale at my gas station right now. I should have gotten more. Like, these are really good. Oh wait, it's finished. I'm so busy shoving my mouth full of M&Ms to kill time, and I didn't realize that it was done. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's just go ahead and look. All right, so it worked. And now it's putting the title on these, which I don't think is a huge deal. Like, we could use some regex to strip those out later. But yeah, so you can see, like, let's go ahead and just look at df dot iloc 0 ki text. Okay, so you can see that it gave us some steps, and they look appropriate. And so this will be a nice data set that we can play around with for the rest of our RAG series. Now, of course, like I said, we only generated 10 here. So I will, if you want to do the full thing, you can do the full thing on your own. The only thing that you would have to do is change in your prompt engineering, where I put, is this just on like a cell by cell basis, this whole wrap thing? Like this is kind of annoying. All right. Okay, so there we go. So here's our text generation prompt. So you just have to change this to like whatever X number of numbers that you wanted. But anyway, but if you wanted to use mine, you could simply just go over to Kaggle here and then download it directly. Usability is a perfect 10. Oh, wow, look at me. I made it perfectly usable. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at stuff here. Okay, so yeah, but this is what we're going to be using for the rest of the series. So I actually don't know what we're going to cover next. I think we're actually going to take a bit of an unconventional approach with our next topic, and that is, I think we're going to do RAG evaluation first. I haven't committed to this, but the reason I'm thinking about evaluation first is you always want to make sure that you are operating within the parameters of expectation. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, that you are constantly making sure against some ground truth source or whatever, that what you're doing is correct. So it kind of, I don't know, in my mind, it kind of doesn't make sense to like jump into RAG immediately if we don't have like a verification mechanism of sorts. So that's why I'm thinking like it might be better to go ahead and start with like RAG evaluation first. We'll see though. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and call it here. Hope you all enjoyed this one, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you.